Good evening and welcome. You are watching the big story on NDTV Profit. Operations across the globe were disrupted due to a widespread technical malfunction originating from Microsoft's Azure backend. Now, this impacted various Microsoft 365 apps and services. The outage hit the functioning of airlines, banks and major corporations. CrowdStrike CEO has posted a statement on X.com saying that the issue has now been identified and fixed. He added that this is not a security incident or a cyber attack. What exactly happened and what is the reason for this disruption? To begin with, Rishabh Bhatnagar from NDTV Profit is joining us to explain what happened. Hi Rishabh, take us through how this started, what happened, what was impacted, and are we now finally seeing a resolution?
Right, Nupur, thanks for having me. So this started about 10 to 12 hours ago. This was brought on by a change that CrowdStrike brought in. This is basically an update that they brought, and that sort of, in very layman terms, it clashed with some of Microsoft's existing features, and that basically caused a downstream effect, affecting Microsoft Azure as well as Microsoft 365's various suite of services that we all use every day. Now, what this caused, the impact, like you already mentioned, thousands of flights cancelled across the globe, lots of schools, hospitals, offices affected. We saw in India, BSE affected. We saw Casa Air, Indigo, SpiceJet, Air India, all the major airlines affected, people being issued handwritten boarding passes, manual checking in being reverted to. We also saw hospitals, pharmacy services, emergency services in the UK being affected, apart from transportation, railway lines. So very crucial services, and sort of bringing the world to a standstill, this global outage. Now, in terms of resolution, the update that was brought on by CrowdStrike has been pulled, and that has temporarily, or at least now fleetingly, bringing Microsoft's outage back to normal. And we're also seeing that Microsoft has redirected customers to actually now contact CrowdStrike as well. It had earlier refrained from naming CrowdStrike as the third-party source that was responsible for this outage. We're seeing that Teams is still down. Microsoft Teams, the video calling app. Microsoft 365 Admin Center is still down, apart from Microsoft Fabric and Power BI. So these 4 or 5 services are now still down, according to Microsoft, while the rest have almost fully recovered. CrowdStrike responded saying that, and clarifying that this is not a security incident or a cyber attack, and that they are now working to improve this situation. Now, it's also important to mention that CrowdStrike, this outage has impacted only those people that use CrowdStrike, and not the other competitors that exist, some of which are Sentinel-1, Symantec, Zscaler, Palo Alto Networks. These are also very prominent global cybersecurity players. So yeah, this is all I have for you right now.
Rishabh, thank you very much for joining us and breaking that down for us. In fact, also joining us on the broadcast is Mr. Anuj Agarwal. He's a cyber expert, and Mr. Ritesh Bhatia, founder of V4Web Cybersecurities. Thank you, gentlemen, and good evening.
Good evening.
Right. Mr. Agarwal, if I could come to you first. Now, Mr. Agarwal, just look at the scale of this outage. It's a little scary, you know, from ports in Poland to airports in India, the US, Europe, Australia, hospitals in the United Kingdom, in Ukraine, the railway network in the UK, the BSE, the London Stock Exchange, everything has been hit. It's just incomprehensible, and it's a very scary situation.
Nupur, I think you are really generous. This is not little scary. This is scared us to the hell. You see the emergency services in US 911, our airports, health services, and many other services got disrupted. And you see there are only 3-4 companies, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, they have got a complete control on the cloud services. Microsoft has a lot of control, 90-95% control on the operating system. Databases are all controlled by these companies, you know. So if somehow they make a mistake, I'm still taking it as a mistake, although it is not, it doesn't look like that. the whole world is coming to its knees. We are 140 crore people in this country, and we are not able to run ourselves, totally dependent on these services. So this is really scary. What if it is in our defense? What if it is in our health and other government services, banking, everything? I mean, there can be a huge chaos in this country and across the world. So this is really scary, yes.
Right, Mr. Bhatia, to you next. Now, the scale of it is alarming. A thing like that has the potential to impact every aspect, like Mr. Agarwal was mentioning, and to think that it was caused due to a single content update, as CrowdStrike seems to have put out in its statement, maybe a little unbelievable, but it's also very horrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. Nupur, I think, but there is a slight correction that I would want to clarify to the users or to the viewers also over here. It was just not one incident, rather there were two incidents. One was the outage at Microsoft's end that was something to do with their Azure, and, it had something to do with the cloud as such. And the second one, apparently, again, it was a coincidence that again, Microsoft became the target of it, was what Rishabh rightly said all about, that there was a particular a faulty update, a faulty patch update. This is how generally all the security products work, so that they are able to secure the systems as such. And that is what actually led to that the famous the blue screen of death as such. So the Microsoft has been down for the past like 10 hours, but that was one incident, and on top of it, it was their sheer bad luck that the second incident also happened within like 4 to 6 hours. Now, coming to the the severity of it, we all know how severe it is, how bad it is, but it also makes us this is a time to ask real tough questions to ourselves, to our IT teams, that are we dependent really on one kind of environment? When we talk about cloud, like Anuj was saying, we are majorly on the cloud. Isn't it time that we get back? I mean, at least the most critical things which are there, we need to be having like a kind of a hybrid model wherein at least you have some fallback. And again, whenever you're doing your this business continuity drills or disaster recovery drills, have you ever thought about this monopolistic thing that you're dependent upon? Like, I would say Microsoft is, by and large, it is like a monopolistic kind of a thing, because that is where most of your products are made for, developed for. But if you look at nothing happened with the Linux and the Unix systems, they didn't get affected as such. So what happened? Why didn't you even think about having this kind of a system, a fallback mechanism when you were conducting your drills? So I think this is this is what we as cyber experts and other IT professionals are talking about, that it's really time that we start looking at these alternative mechanisms too. Nupur.
Absolutely. We're going to come back to you on that. Anuj Agarwal, from a cyber safety point of view, how should something like this be dealt upon? I know that Mr. Bhatia has touched upon it a bit, but how do you mitigate its impact? Because today it was almost 12 hours before things actually were brought under control. And even then, the cascading effects are going to be felt for much longer.
It's a very good question you have put it. You see, it's very amazing that the management of these companies have not taken a basic steps. Every software developer knows that if a upgrade fails, immediately go roll back to the earlier version, fix it offline, and then come back, which has not happened. So that shows that either they are completely relaxed or not aware about the basic software development, or there is something more than what meets the eye or whatever is their statement, that there is definitely a cyber incident. And if that is the case, then of course it would have taken them some time to figure it out and then to fix it. You see, lately the world is divided into two domains. One is hostile against the other, and everyone is gaining a technical prowess. And there had been attacks, technical attacks, and it may be one of those attacks. So what we need to do is we need to really decouple ourselves from these big techs. And I know about one company which has taken a very good effective steps. They have developed their own map. They have developed their own cloud. And this Indian company is running well with these two. And I'm sure they are not affected today because they are not really connected to the global clouds. So what we need to do is urgently, I mean, I'm saying urgently means today itself, the government and the industry, they must sit together and they must ensure that we have a fallback mechanism which has 100% Indian controlled system. Not only the databases, not only the cloud, but also the operating system. And Linux and Unix are very much there since very, very long time. Pretty robust system. It is just that Microsoft is a fancy system. They have very good sales mechanism. They have very good inroads into every organization, and they make big claims and offer good looking software, but they are not that robust as they claim. So I think it's very important that for all critical sectors, especially the banking, hospitality, travel, insurance, for the India defense, we must move immediately away from these fancy softwares to the real good ones.
Right. Ritesh, even if we were to, for a minute, believe what has been said by CrowdStrike, that this was an issue that has now been fixed and it is not a cyber attack, and they've come out with that statement, isn't it ironical that CrowdStrike is actually a cybersecurity company which has had to come out with something like this?
Yeah, of course, that's really ironical. And secondly, I just didn't like their statement at all. And and why I'm saying this, because you don't even apologize. Number one, you don't even understand the impact of it, the gravity of it that it has got, because it's affected not organizations but even the users of those organizations. So I mean, how are you like just even saying that this is not a security incident? I mean, it's just not the okay, it has to be a cyber attack, it has to be from somebody else. Why, when it's your own person who's just made up a who's just goofed up, that also it is a security incident. So no apologies, no not admitting to it that it is an incident, a security incident. And thirdly, not coming up with timely information. Where was your corporate communication? What were they doing at that point of time? You're supposed to be telling us every let's say 30 minutes or at least 1 hour that this is what it is, this is what we have identified here. The entire cybersecurity community is just scratching their head. They're not understanding whether it is an IT issue or it is some other issue, till they came to know, okay, it was because of this CrowdStrike. They were so this was a kind of a colossal waste of time also. So I think, and secondly, when Microsoft also discovered, okay, there is another incident also, I think it was extremely important that a joint statement should have been made that, listen, there was this particular thing which we've taken care of. Now, this is the second thing that has come up. It's real bad luck. And, it's just coincidental that this has happened. And CrowdStrike is also working. We are also helping them. They are also helping us, and together we are going to help. I mean, that would be a kind of a relief for everyone. Okay, these guys are working together. I think that was something that's more important. And now coming to your question that it's taking so long and everything. No, the CrowdStrike has done its part. But can you just imagine the IT team, the infrastructure team, the cybersecurity team of all these organizations? They're still over this long weekend, they are sitting over there, kind of going onto the command prompts, trying to reverse those updates, roll back those updates, checking each and every system, whether it's working fine or not. I think it's going to be a bad weekend for them, Nupur.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Anuj, if I could come to you now, Ritesh was mentioning the lack of transparency. Now, that is a real issue over here. Obviously, there seemed to have been an attempt to hide things, if I could use that word. And you have been mentioning that you don't think that there could be more than meets the eye. What are you thinking in terms of what is it that we are missing?
Number one, they are too big and they are irresponsible. They are not governed by, and they are not under control of any government, it seems. Even their own country's government is completely silent and ineffective. India, of course, doesn't count in these situations. And second, of course, as Ritesh also touched, that either an insider or an outsider, if there is a malicious code or there is an ineffective code or a wrong code inserted into such a critical system, which is affecting the whole globe, I mean, this is a cyber incident. And this is an incident for which they must pay for everybody's time, effort, money, and lot of critical emergency situations for which people suffered irreparable loss, monetary loss, and so many other incidents. When we are paying, everybody is paying for their services, for their software or whatever they are providing through the nose, then in such situations, they should be made to be paid. So that next time, if it's supposed to happen, they will be more responsible. Since it has happened multiple times by the so-called mistakes by these companies, which looks very childish in nature, actually, you are not supposed to make an update to a global system which malfunctions. You should have done the 10-time testing. But this is a very basic software development needs. Everybody is taught in his graduation courses. If they have not done it, and if they have done it and failed it, which means they are not really aware how to do it. And they should have done a rollback immediately. So for 6 hours or 8 hours, they are not able to realize that there is a mistake or there is a problem, and they are continuing with that, and it is playing havoc with the whole world. So which shows that they are not at all responsible. They don't feel responsible, as Ritesh also pointed out, that there is absolutely no apologies, which shows their arrogance and which shows their confidence that nothing can be done against them. I think the least we should be doing is immediately pulling it back from them. And we have enough talent and requirement. We are a big country in terms of resources and as well as the user base. It is until and unless it comes into our government's domain, our people's domain, we will keep on suffering and we will keep on paying, and without any recourse. Very pathetic situation for us.
Right. Anuj Agarwal, next question is, how do we diversify a risk like this one? Now, obviously, it will prompt a rethink because the power of these security tools seems to have become a risk, as particularly in this case.
You are right. They have become too big to be ignored any further. Very recently, a big Indian company moved completely away from these companies. They have now developed their own app for running their services, and they have developed their own cloud. So today, as I understand, they are not affected by their outage or their global outage. Ola is running perfectly fine today because they have already moved around 1 month back from the Google Maps as well as the Microsoft Cloud. So this is the need of the hour for us, that we need to move away. We need not be frightened or too much dependent on them. I'm not saying you disconnect. I'm saying we need to be well connected with them. We need to be collaborating with them, but we need to have our own backup mechanism, which should work at least in our critical sectors, because our country is very big country. We are geographically so much spread and now so much dependent on electronic delivery of services to all our citizens, that an outage of this level can create a lot of law and order problems in this country. On the airport, you're showing a big queues. What if it is in the banking sector? Everybody will probably think that there is some sort of a problem with the banking sector, and if they start rushing towards the banks to withdraw their money, I mean, that will become a huge problem. And the government of this country has absolutely no control over entire happening, and they have no backup arrangement. Neither the institutions have any backup arrangement. So we need to quickly, decisively move away from these global giants, global services where the databases and everything else, the clouds are all hosted, God only knows where, which country. Not even in US, probably they are somewhere in the Iceland or somewhere in the Honolulu, which nobody can reach out in case of an emergency or physical assault or something. So we need to definitely bring it back. RBI started on that some time back, but faced a kind of a backlash, and they were accused of domestic chauvinism and all that. But I think today's incident and couple of other incidents in last 6 months or 1 year has proven that there has to be some local content and local backup on the critical services. There is absolutely no second thought, and we must start today itself.
All right. Ritesh, now this disruption, of course, is a stark reminder of the potential consequences of critical infrastructure relying heavily on cloud services. I know you touched upon it in your first answer, but what is the way forward in terms of dealing with cloud services?
So I personally believe, like this is, based on all my these 22 years of experience, I personally believe that, it's time to come back. Like, the physical thing is extremely important. Now, whether it is like, remembering your passwords, because you just imagine, we had a major breach with one of the password storage organization, all the passwords were breached and all that. So people have started writing it back in their books, in their, the pen and the paper system and all those kind of things. Today, the boarding passes were like physical. They just took those plain boarding passes and then they just started writing over there. So it's very important that we don't forget that, there is something that is our own intelligence and not completely depend upon just, because this is ultimately it's a technology. Something can go wrong and will go wrong. And cyber crimes or cyber attacks have shown that, have proved this thing time and again, that, you always say, I am more secure. But you look at even the biggest of the giants, the top, I'm saying even the top 3 companies when it comes to technology, they themselves have been attacked or they have also faced outages. Now that's the reality of technology, and especially with AI coming in where you're more dependent on that artificial intelligence. Please, let's not forget that we have our own intelligence, which has built this artificial intelligence. So the time is now. Please wake up, because when it comes to social media, there is a monopolistic attitude. When it comes to an operating system, there is a kind of a monopoly thing. When it comes to like a search engine, there is again a monopoly kind of thing. So when you're or when it comes to the messaging, the instant messaging, we again have this one particular app which we are completely dependent upon. So whenever we've seen there is an outage or something goes wrong, we think, oh, it's a business loss, and it's like so much of loss. But then what are we doing, we as users? Why, when the car breaks down, that's again technology. When it breaks down, you park it on the side, you call a towing one, or you take a bus or a train, or you have these options. So our incident response teams, people need to understand that there are several options. It can't be just cloud, it needs to be hybrid. They were very happy, okay, this headache is going, the cloud people will do it. And so they were just eating into your coffers, they were eating it up into your by saving your time. But look what it is, you don't even have access to all your data. I'm trying to kind of web check in on one of the airlines, it doesn't allow me because they still haven't recovered. So having certain critical part as your own, you air gap it, and this is just over there, you're not dependent. Because if you think you got like this kind of machine, you buy another machine. If this has got this operating system, you have another operating system. So I think this is very important to look at alternatives. I think this is one of the biggest incident in this era, and I'm sure my entire community, the IT, the cybersecurity community, are definitely going to consider coming back, like not entirely, but having a hybrid approach, which is the way forward as such. Nupur.
Absolutely. So it wouldn't be wrong to say that all in all, both of you seem to suggest that as users, we need to diversify our risks, also perhaps go back to the basics above all else. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
And with that, it's a wrap on the big story. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back with more news and updates.